One of the things that people complain about me and Mick West and all other rational, quote-unquote, rational skeptics, there are irrational skeptics, and I'm probably more of an irrational skeptic. They complain about us deleting comments. So all comments must be visible, so that a person can just pile on and start new sub-threads and keep going. Because they wouldn't game a system that they couldn't possibly lose by just figuring out how to hack it. Meanwhile, the people like me who have to moderate the comment sections on our YouTube channels because we cover controversial subjects, they're not controversial subjects. People want to teach the controversy. This is the only thing people can do. It's a last-ditch effort. I make fun of it all the time. But anyway, here we go. A set of assertions were made today on my channel. This will be having the effect of causing the person who made them losing their commenting privileges until I basically forget they've done it. Because they want to influence things. It would help if you didn't do checkmate emojis and deal with it glasses and Jewish lightning. Really? So when this happens on a regular basis, for any period of time, I expunge their comments unless I really don't want to, or I can't because it's a useful comment even if I don't like it, just so that they're less of an effect on the channel. Now, if you're not aware of this, deleting people's comments lowers the ranking on YouTube a lot. YouTube has never changed that part of the algorithm. You get punished for deleting comments. Now, it's not like I'm on a popularity contest here, but I want the videos to be visible and findable. So we're going to cover two subjects here in the video, and I'm going to ask the person to acknowledge actual numbers. I'm going to put one of the questions up. I'm not going to know the answer, neither are you. You all have to look it up. On the day it happened, and after it was obvious that this was not an airline accident on September 11th, some firefighters then jumped to a conclusion that explosives were used somehow, because they heard things that sounded like explosives. One of the quotes I'm going to read below will explain itself if you look up what the quote means. And yes, the New York City Fire Department, the 9/11 Commission, the U.S. federal government, NIST, everybody has deleted 80% of the links you'd need to look up to find out where these quotes are from. Well, it's been plenty of years. No, NIST, it hasn't been plenty of years. It is always too soon to delete any data. Why do we all have to archive your shit when it's bytes on a computer drive somewhere? It's not that much goddamn bandwidth. Even if the bandwidth usage goes to 0, stop deleting shit. Yes, I criticize the official narrative government websites and resources more than you can believe. Mick West and I both have a gigantic bone to pick with these assholes, erasing shit. This is history. Leave it up. Well, we've upgraded. Fuck you. I'm sorry, I'm just going to get that out of my system. The only reason any of them thought these might be explosions is because they realized these weren't accidents. These were planes that were deliberately rammed into the buildings. Years later, some of the firemen still use their status as first responders on that day to draw attention to their belief that XYZ happened. The government was in on it, Jews did it, whatever. For whatever reasons. So here's my request. How many firefighters in New York City on that day that had to deal with this believe today that those were explosives? No, they don't get rounded up and killed. No, none of them lost their jobs for saying this. No, a lot of them quit because as first responders, they're also not first, but secondary injured people because they were hurt by this. A lot of them couldn't operate under those conditions. It was a really hellish environment, and it screwed them up. And a lot of them have PTSD and a whole sorts of crap. And only just recently are we reactivating the first responders fund against the will of was it a coalition, bipartisan, or was it just the Republicans trying to undercut them? I don't know. I'm not even going to look it up. I don't know. I'm suspicious it was both sides, honestly. But the only ones ever featured in the news were the Republican ones that didn't want to keep the first responder fund going. It took a comedian to force them to do it and to quietly smirk as they had to vote it in because they were shamed into doing it. I'd love to see the vote profile. But anyway, years later, how many people who were there in New York believe those were explosions. The actual number compared to the actual number of people who are firefighters. If you're going to say, well, firefighters say, what is the percentage? Then we get truther websites saying, well, if they disagree with this assertion, they weren't there when they clearly were. You take someone at their word. You never ask them to prove they were even in New York at the time. But if somebody says something you don't like, oh, they were never in they're not real firefighters or something. I'm on the side where we take all the numbers and put them together. So how many firefighters said there were explosions? And by the way, firefighters aren't supposed to know necessarily what demolitions charges sound like, but they do know another one. And here's the quote I'm going to give you in a minute that's going to explain this. Albert Turey, New York Fire Department Chief of Safety. They leave out the of safety. Chief of Safety Practices, not a New York City Fire Department chief, said he believed there were explosives planted in one of the towers because that was the one he had contact with at the time. This is an extremely old quote. I'm taking it as is, even if he changed it later. That's one. Former Queens Engine Company 261 firefighter Nicholas DeMazzi said at one point that federal agents, he saw what he believed were federal agents who found one of the black boxes or more and hid or destroyed them. I'm not sure how he came to the conclusion they were hidden or destroyed. Maybe they found what they thought were black boxes and turned out not to be. But again, that's number 2. Number 3, a YouTube video that gets repeated a lot. Well, see, there's hundreds of them. No, it's a video with 2 fire department people. 2. One guy's old enough I'm taking his word verbatim. Why? Because I'm going to read it. Truthers here, it was secondary explosions. Truthers ignore the whole fucking plane blew. You can barely hear it because of the noise in the background, but it's not that noisy. You could say the whole thing blew, but there's a tell. He said he heard explosions. What kind? I'm not answering that question. You can't pin me down. I'm a patriot Christian warrior. Secondary explosions. When a firefighter says secondary explosions, it's an explosion caused by existing materials that would be commonly found in a building that have the potential to explode, including water tanks or fuel lines. Not bombs, bitch. The man is being quoted saying that he heard things that sounded to him like explosions caused by fire, either causing a levee or a boiler explosion. Yes, I'm annoying a certain warble garble out there. Yeah, a container full of any kind of fuel or any solvent can do that. That's what they mean by secondary explosions. Now all you have to do is look up secondary explosion, firefighter training manuals. I'm not linking to them. It's your job to do that. I'm linking to the video twice. And then I'm going to put another one that ends in MGRQSO, where a guy's interviewed saying, I heard explosions in my house as it was burning down. I haven't even watched it. Type in explosion, fire, and see how common explosions are heard in fires. So, Jewish lightning at that house too? Guy who posted that link? Come on. Neener. If you come to my channel and post overtly contrarian alt-righty bullshit, oh, I'm just playing games, I'm doing memes, you're banned. I want to keep up the stereotype of every single conspiracy theorist being an irrational, Jew-hating fuck. An anti-Semitic shithead. I'm going to scream Jews did it just because it's funny and triggering. Banned. Why? Because I'm lumped in with conspiracy theorists. Me even saying the word Jew in a YouTube video can get me banned from YouTube because the voice thing says, oh, he said the word Jew 3 times. 4? How many times? Jews did your mom. Because you're Jewish. But why would I poke fun at conspiracy theorists by saying conspiracy theorist? Because instead of saying secondary explosion equals what you look up when you look up what a firefighter means by it. It's juice planted explosives. What a bunch of knuckle draggers. And he said, and I'm quoting, the whole fucking plane blew. He thought the plane was still physically together enough that it could blow up. Which means he probably doesn't understand jet fuel expansion levels, vapor pressure, ignition points, incept dates. Next, 2013, 11 a.m., April 24th. A 250-pound, 5-foot-long piece of a plane's landing gear was found wedged in a narrow alleyway space behind a building 3 blocks from Ground Zero that nobody looked in because it was a really narrow one between 2 fairly tall buildings. It was behind a building. Nobody has a reason to go back there. It had all sorts of crap back there that had collected over the years. Random debris, including debris from 9/11 most likely. They just didn't clean it up. 2014, somebody posted a video saying this. Now this is old data. This is why I'm angry at NIST. 2014, September 14th, 9/11 investigation vids on YouTube, the Truther channel, made the following claim. Plane debris would mostly be located in the top third of the pile at Ground Zero when the planes were in motion. You couldn't have any pieces outside of Ground Zero. Okay. Next, he also said, after only 2 months, after 2 full months, this is a 2014 video, I'm going to emphasize that. So he's obviously not looked up any updates. He said only 5 pieces of the plane debris were found. So translating this, because he didn't get to the point, because I'm going to take him out of context, you could say that this 2014 video about something that happened by November 6, 2001, 5 pieces of the 911 plane debris were found on the top 1/3 of the World Trade Center pile. But they weren't. They were found outside of it. So the majority of parts by that point, by that day, were not in the pile. There was a wheel by Church Street, the Church and Vesey Street seatbelt piece, World Trade Center 5 fuselage section that was sitting on the roof, the 45 Park Place landing gear, that's where it was, and the Murray and Church Street engine that was sitting in the middle of the road. But his assertion was it should all be in the top third of the pile, when almost all of the stuff he was quoting about was outside of the building because the fucking thing was in motion. And the pulverizing effect of a building top 1/3 of one of the tallest buildings on the planet crushing your airplane wouldn't make it unrecognizable. Never mind that since then we have a list of parts and where they were found. Most of them were actually found in the debris. This video from 2014 didn't bother updating his memes, but he listed them. Thank you. His assertion that it would have to all be in the pile when most of it was outside of the pile is contradicted by his own evidence that he failed to pay attention to. He was ignoring evidence in favor of an idea that it ought to be. So I get this bullshit. No airplane components were found near this. Weasel words? I am certainly more inclined to believe firemen that heard demolition explosives than some bullshit news report. Why are you ignoring the other vast majority, over 90%, much, much larger, of the firefighters that don't believe that there were explosives in the building? When you have noise that covers controlled demolition, you got all you need to pull off cover sounds. So that's your explanation for silenced explosives. It was not quite a quiet day. Everything was making noise and distracting the average citizen. Large number of professionals, such as firefighters, came up with this. Large numbers. How many? Can you count more? Is it the majority? Were they there? Are you misquoting a video where someone said he thought part of the plane had exploded and or it was a secondary explosion, not a bomb? I'm taking stuff out of I'm quoting out of context like everybody else does. I'm going to do this. Say, Matt, I'm going to be removing your comments if you don't stop doing this shit. You're doing the neener stuff. No more emojis. No more Jewish lightning bolts. Knock it off. Okay? Thanks for watching.